Thomas Rivera's hands were shaking as he stared at the document in Catherine Walsh's open briefcase. Rachel Rivera, liability assessment, recommended action, permanent solution. His wife's name. The wife who'd been dead for 3 years. The elevator lurched to a stop between floors, emergency lights flickering on, and Thomas looked at the CEO of Meridian Tech. The woman who'd just signed a memo about permanently solving the problem of his wife, and said the words that would change everything. "I know what you did. You killed her. You killed Rachel. And you're trapped in here with me until you tell me why. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. If you believe in justice, in truth, in holding powerful people accountable, subscribe right now. Stay with me until the end of Thomas's story. I promise you what he uncovers will shake you. And comment below with what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels, because what happened in that elevator needs to be heard everywhere." 3 years ago, Thomas Rivera's wife Rachel died in a car accident. Brake failure, single vehicle, no witnesses. The police called it tragic but routine. Closed the case in 2 weeks. Thomas knew it wasn't an accident. Rachel had told him she'd found something at work. Something big, something dangerous. She was a financial analyst at Meridian Tech, one of America's largest pharmaceutical companies. She'd been analyzing pricing data for a routine audit when she noticed patterns that didn't make sense. Insulin prices tripling over 2 years. Cancer drugs increasing 400%. Generic medications suddenly costing more than brand names. "Tommy, someone's manipulating the market," Rachel had said the night before she died. She was sitting at their kitchen table with spreadsheets everywhere, her laptop glowing in the dark. "I'm talking about billions of dollars in illegal price fixing. I'm talking about people dying because they can't afford medicine that costs pennies to manufacture. I have to report this. I have to." "Rachel, stop. Think about Lily. Think about what could happen if you go up against people that powerful." "I am thinking about Lily. I'm thinking about the world she's going to grow up in. If I don't fight this, who will?" The next day, Rachel's car went off a bridge. Thomas spent 3 years trying to prove it was murder. Went to the police. They said he was grief-stricken, looking for someone to blame. Went to journalists. They said he had no evidence. Went to lawyers. They said he couldn't afford to fight Meridian's legal team. So Thomas did what he had to do. He took a job as a night janitor at Meridian headquarters. Not for the money, though. God knows he needed it. After being blacklisted from every financial firm in the city, he took it to find proof, to get inside the building where his wife had worked, to find evidence that her death wasn't an accident. For 3 years he mopped floors and emptied trash bins and watched. Waited. Learned the building's rhythms. Learned which executives worked late. Learned where the security cameras had blind spots. Learned everything he could about the company that had killed his wife. And tonight, everything changed. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Thomas was on the 47th floor executive offices mopping the hallway outside CEO Catherine Walsh's office. The fire alarm went off, happened twice a month, usually a malfunction in the parking garage. Standard procedure was to evacuate via the stairs. But tonight, Catherine Walsh was working late. Thomas saw her through the glass door packing up her briefcase, clearly annoyed at the interruption. She came out of her office just as Thomas was putting his mop bucket away. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, not really talking to him, just complaining to the universe. "I have a board meeting in Tokyo in 8 hours and I haven't even—" The fire alarm cut out suddenly. The building's PA system crackled. "False alarm, all clear, resume normal operations." Catherine shook her head. Waste of time. She walked toward the elevator. Thomas followed. His shift was over. He was headed home anyway. The elevator doors opened. They both stepped in. Catherine pressed the ground floor button. The doors closed. And nothing happened. Catherine pressed the button again. Nothing. She pressed the emergency button. The elevator lurched, then stopped completely. The lights flickered once, twice. Then emergency lighting kicked in dim yellow, making everything look sickly. "You've got to be kidding me." Catherine said. She pulled out her phone. No signal. She tried the emergency call button. Dead. This is unbelievable. I pay for building maintenance and the elevators don't even... She stopped. Really looked at Thomas for the first time. You're the janitor. Rivera, right. I've seen you on the security cameras. Thomas felt ice in his veins. You watch the janitors on security cameras. I watch everything. It's my company, my building. I like to know who's here when I'm working late. Catherine studied him. You've been here for 3 years. Always work nights. Always alone. Never cause problems. Model employee. Just trying to do my job. Of course. Catherine went back to her phone, trying to get a signal, trying the emergency button again. This is ridiculous. I have meetings. That's when Thomas saw it. Catherine's briefcase, on the elevator floor where she'd set it down. The clasp had come undone when she dropped it. Papers were visible. And on top a memo with a name that made Thomas's heart stop. Rachel Rivera, liability assessment. Recommended action, permanent solution. His wife's name. In a document. In Catherine Walsh's briefcase. Thomas couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only stare at those words. Permanent solution. Mr. Rivera, are you all right? Thomas looked up at Catherine Walsh, CEO of Meridian Tech, billionaire, philanthropist, Time magazine's most influential woman in healthcare, and the woman who had a document about permanently solving the problem of his wife. What is that? His voice came out strangled. What is my wife's name doing in your briefcase? Catherine followed his gaze, saw the memo. Her expression changed instantly, went from annoyed to calculating. I have no idea what you're talking about. That document, right there. Rachel Rivera. That was my wife. She died 3 years ago. Why do you have a memo about her? Why does it say, permanent solution? Catherine slowly, deliberately closed her briefcase. Mr. Rivera, I think you're mistaken. I handle hundreds of documents daily. I'm sure you misread. I didn't misread anything. Open the briefcase. Let me see that document. I will do no such thing. You're a janitor. You have no authority to... My wife is dead. Thomas's voice cracked. Her name is in your briefcase with the words, permanent solution, and you're going to open that case and show me what it says, or I swear to God. You'll, threaten me, assault me. I have lawyers who will destroy you for even suggesting. I don't care about lawyers. I care about my wife. I care about why she's dead. And I care about why the CEO of the company she was investigating has a document with her name on it. Catherine's face went very still. Your wife worked at Meridian. You know she did. She was a financial analyst. She found something. Found evidence of fraud, price fixing. And then she died. And the police said it was an accident, but it wasn't. Was it? It wasn't an accident at all. Mr. Rivera, I don't know what conspiracy theories you've concocted in your grief, but then open the briefcase, prove me wrong, show me that document has nothing to do with my wife's death. Catherine looked at him. Really looked. Her eyes were cold, assessing, like she was calculating odds. No, she said finally. I don't have to prove anything to you. You're a janitor. I'm the CEO. And when we get out of this elevator, you're fired. We're not getting out of this elevator until you tell me the truth. Are you threatening to keep us trapped? Because that's kidnapping. That's a felony. The elevator's broken. Neither of us can control that. But while we're here, while you can't run away or call your lawyers or have security throw me out, you're going to tell me what happened to Rachel. I don't know anyone named Rachel. Liar. Excuse me. I said you're a liar. You know exactly who Rachel was. You have a document about her. About solving the problem of her. What did she find? What did she discover that was so dangerous, you had to kill her? Catherine laughed. Actually laughed. Mr. Rivera, this is absurd. I didn't kill your wife. I've never killed anyone. I run a pharmaceutical company. We develop life-saving medications. We employ thousands of people. We've contributed billions to medical research. The idea that I could murder someone is insane. Then explain the document. I don't have to explain anything to you. You're trapped in an elevator with a man whose wife you murdered. Yeah, you do. Catherine's expression hardened. Your wife died in a car accident. The police investigated. They found brake failure, mechanical malfunction. It was tragic, but it happens. You're looking for someone to blame because you can't accept that sometimes terrible things just happen. Rachel called me the night before she died. She said she'd found evidence of massive fraud at Meridian. She said people were dying because of illegal price fixing. She said she was going to report it to the SEC, to the FBI, to anyone who would listen. And the next day, she was dead. That's not a coincidence. People find evidence of conspiracy all the time. Your wife was, forgive me for being blunt, she was a mid-level analyst. She didn't have access to company-wide financial data. Whatever she thought she found was almost certainly a misunderstanding of normal business practices. Normal business practices. You call tripling insulin prices normal. I call it market-based pricing, supply and demand, capitalism. If people don't like our prices, they can buy from competitors. There are no competitors. Meridian bought them all. You have a monopoly on 3 of the most commonly prescribed medications in America. People can't not buy from you. They need insulin to survive. They need cancer drugs to live. And you're charging them prices they can't afford and calling it business. Catherine tilted her head. Studied Thomas like he was an interesting specimen under a microscope. Mr. Rivera, let me explain something to you. Something your wife clearly didn't understand. Developing new medications costs billions of dollars. Clinical trials, FDA approval, research and development. It all requires massive capital investment. If we don't charge premium prices for our existing drugs, we can't fund the research that creates the next generation of treatments. Your wife saw price increases and assumed corruption. But what she was actually seeing was the cost of progress. Progress. People are dying because they can't afford insulin. People die every day. That's life. We can't save everyone. But we can invest in research that might save millions in the future. That requires hard choices. That requires prioritizing long-term innovation over short-term accessibility. You're justifying murder as innovation. I'm not justifying anything. I'm explaining reality. Your wife didn't understand business realities. She saw numbers and drew conclusions that weren't supported by the full picture. Then show me the full picture. Open the briefcase. Show me that document. Explain why it exists if Rachel's death was just an accident. Catherine checked her watch. We've been in here for 17 minutes. Emergency services will have us out soon. And when they do, this conversation is over. You'll be terminated. Possibly arrested depending on how generous I'm feeling. I'd suggest you spend the remaining time reflecting on whether you really want to continue antagonizing the person who controls your employment, your daughter's health care access, and your future. Thomas felt like he'd been punched. What did you say about my daughter? Lily isn't at 10 years old, type 1 diabetes, enrolled in Meridian's patient assistance program, gets her insulin at a significant discount. It would be terrible if something happened to that assistance. If Lily suddenly had to pay full price, $200 per month. Could you afford that? Mr. Rivera, on a janitor's salary. The elevator felt like it was getting smaller, hotter. Thomas's hands were shaking. You're threatening my daughter. I'm reminding you of your situation. You rely on Meridian's generosity. If you continue to make wild accusations to harass me to interfere with my business, that generosity might evaporate. And then what? How do you keep Lily alive when you can't afford her medication? Thomas looked at Catherine Walsh and understood finally completely what he was dealing with. Not just a CEO, not just a billionaire, a sociopath, someone who would threaten a 10-year-old's life to protect her profits. You really did kill her, he whispered. You really murdered Rachel. I've never killed anyone. Maybe not personally, but you ordered it. You had her killed. Because she found out about your fraud. Because she was going to expose you. So you made it look like an accident and, Mr. Rivera, you're becoming hysterical. When we get out of this elevator, I strongly suggest you seek grief counseling. Perhaps medication for your obvious paranoid delusions. I'm not delusional. I'm right. And somewhere in that briefcase is proof. Catherine smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Even if hypothetically there was something in my briefcase that supported your conspiracy theory, what would you do with it? You're a janitor. You have no power, no resources, no credibility. Who would believe you? The truth doesn't need credibility. It just needs to be heard. Oh, Thomas. Catherine used his first name like a weapon. You really don't understand how the world works, do you? Truth is irrelevant. Power is what matters. And I have all the power. I have lawyers, politicians, judges, media connections. I can make stories disappear. I can make people disappear. Your wife learned that. I'd hate for you to learn it the hard way, too. Thomas felt something break open inside him. Not rage, clarity. Catherine Walsh had just admitted it. Not directly, but enough. Enough to confirm everything Thomas had suspected for 3 years. Rachel had been murdered, and the woman who ordered it was standing 3 feet away, threatening his daughter, confident she'd never face consequences. Thomas's phone buzzed in his pocket. The old one. The cheap flip phone he kept for emergencies. The one that still had battery when his smartphone died. He pulled it out. Catherine laughed. What is that, a museum piece? Does it even? Thomas turned on the voice recorder. Hit record. Slipped it back in his pocket. You were saying about truth being irrelevant. Catherine's expression flickered. What are you doing? What Rachel would have done. Creating a record. Evidence. Proof that you threatened my daughter. Proof that you admitted to making people disappear. I admitted nothing. And recording someone without consent is illegal in this state. Anything you recorded would be inadmissible. In court, maybe. But in the court of public opinion, people love a good scandal, especially when it involves a billionaire CEO threatening a 10-year-old. Catherine's smile disappeared. Delete that recording. No. Delete it, or You'll what you're trapped in here with me. No security, no lawyers, no power. Just you and me and 43 minutes of you explaining why my wife deserved to die. I never said she deserved to die. But she did die. And you know why. And somewhere in that briefcase is a document that proves it. Permanent solution. What does that mean, Catherine? What permanent solution did you implement for the Rachel Rivera problem? Catherine's jaw clenched. You have no idea what you're doing. The consequences you're inviting. I've destroyed people for far less than this. Then destroy me. But I'm getting the truth first. They stood in silence for a long moment. The emergency lights hummed. The elevator creaked. Thomas could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, Catherine spoke. Your wife was a problem. She found data she wasn't supposed to find. Made connections she wasn't supposed to make. Started asking questions that could have caused significant financial and legal difficulties for Meridian. Thomas's blood went cold. Go on. We tried to handle it quietly, offered her a transfer, a promotion, even attempted to discredit her findings through official channels. But Rachel she was stubborn, refused to let it go, threatened to go to federal regulators, to the media, to make it all public. So you killed her. I didn't kill anyone. I made a business decision. I authorized a solution to a problem that threatened billions of dollars in shareholder value, thousands of jobs, and critical medical research funding. Sometimes difficult decisions require difficult actions. You authorized her murder. Say it. I authorized a permanent resolution to a liability issue. How that resolution was implemented was handled by others. Who actually killed her? That's not information you need. Who? Catherine's eyes were flat. Empty. Martin Cross, my CFO. He handles difficult situations. Your wife's brake line was compromised while she was at work. Maintenance garage. No cameras in that section. Very unfortunate accident. Thomas couldn't breathe. For 3 years he'd suspected. But hearing it confirmed, hearing this woman casually describe ordering his wife's murder like it was a budget decision. How many others? The question came out strangled. Excuse me. How many other people have you killed? How many other liability issues has Martin Cross permanently resolved? Catherine actually considered the question. I don't keep count. Several over the years. Whistleblowers mostly. Occasionally a journalist who got too close. A few regulatory officials who couldn't be bought. It's unfortunate, but necessary. The work we're doing at Meridian, developing next-generation treatments, pushing medical boundaries, it requires capital. If a few obstacles need to be removed to protect that funding, that's simply the cost of progress. You're insane. I'm practical. Your wife wasn't the first person to discover our pricing arrangements. She won't be the last. But we've managed the situation successfully for 15 years. No one's touched us. No one will. I will. Catherine laughed. Actually laughed. You, a janitor with a flip phone recording Thomas, even if you had a recording of me confessing to murder, which you don't, because I've been very careful with my words, who would believe you? I'm Catherine Walsh. Time magazine's most influential woman in healthcare. I've donated $200 million to medical research. I have senators on speed dial. You're a janitor, a grieving widower with a history of harassing Meridian employees about conspiracy theories. My lawyers would destroy you before you got to the courthouse steps. Then I'll go to the media. The media? Catherine's smile was cruel. Thomas, I have relationships with every major news outlet in the country. I'm on the board of trustees for 3 of them. Any story about me gets vetted through people I know personally. They'll never publish it. They'll never even investigate it. Because attacking me means attacking the pharmaceutical industry. Means risking access to medical stories, to pharmaceutical advertising, to the relationships that keep their businesses running. No journalist will touch this. You're wasting your time. The elevator shuddered. Lights flickered. For a moment, Thomas thought they were moving again. But no, just the building settling. Still trapped. How do you sleep at night? Thomas asked quietly. Knowing you've killed people. Knowing you're killing people right now by pricing their medicine beyond what they can afford. How do you live with yourself? Catherine's expression didn't change. I sleep fine, because I understand that I'm doing more good than harm. The medications Meridian develops save millions of lives. If we have to charge premium prices to fund that development. If a few thousand people can't afford access, that's an acceptable trade-off. You don't see the big picture, Thomas. You only see your personal loss. I see the global impact, the historical legacy. 100 years from now, Meridian will be remembered for curing diseases. No one will remember the people who couldn't afford our drugs. They're statistical noise. My wife wasn't noise. She was a person. She had a name. She had a daughter who needed her mother. She had information that threatened my company. That's all she was, Thomas. All any of you are. Variables in an equation. When a variable becomes problematic, it gets eliminated. That's how systems work. Thomas stared at this woman, this monster in expensive clothes, and understood that arguing was pointless. Catherine Walsh didn't have a conscience, didn't feel guilt, saw people as obstacles or assets, nothing more. You're going to prison, Thomas said. I'm going to make sure of it. With what evidence? Your illegally recorded conversation. Your paranoid theories, Thomas? Even if you had video of me personally murdering your wife, my lawyers would get it suppressed, would get me acquitted, would ruin you in the process. You can't win this. Nobody can. The elevator lurched. Actually moved this time. Started descending slowly. Emergency protocols engaging. Catherine checked her watch. 43 minutes. That's how long we've been in here. Long enough for you to realize you're powerless. Long enough for me to make very clear what happens if you continue this crusade. When those doors open, you walk away. You keep your mouth shut. You take care of Lily with the insulin we generously provide at discount rates, and you forget this conversation ever happened. And if I don't, then Lily's assistance gets revoked. You lose your job. Martin Cross pays you a visit, and you end up like Rachel. Tragic accident. Grieving father who couldn't handle the loss. Drove his car off the same bridge his wife did. Very poetic. Very final. The elevator settled at the ground floor. The doors started to open. Catherine picked up her briefcase, straightened her jacket, looked at Thomas with eyes that had no warmth, no humanity. "It's been an illuminating conversation, Mr. Rivera. I trust we won't be having another one, because the next time we meet, it won't be in an elevator. It'll be at your funeral." She walked out. Thomas stood frozen. The elevator doors started to close. He lunged forward, stopping them, stumbling into the lobby. Empty. 12:30 a.m. No one around. Catherine was already at the main entrance, getting into a black car, being driven away. Thomas pulled out his phone. The flip phone. Hit stop on the recording. 43 minutes. Every word, every threat, every admission. He had it all. Now he just had to figure out what to do with it before Catherine realized what he'd captured and sent Martin Cross to make him disappear. Thomas drove home shaking so badly he almost rear-ended a truck at a red light. The flip phone was in his pocket, the recording that could destroy Catherine Walsh burned into its memory. 43 minutes of a billionaire CEO admitting to murder. To multiple murders. To threatening a 10-year-old. He pulled into his driveway at 1:15 a.m. The house was dark. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor who watched Lily when Thomas worked nights, had texted that Lily was asleep. Insulin pump checked everything fine. Thomas sat in the car and listened to the recording. Put in earbuds, hit play. Catherine's voice filled his ears. Cold, clinical, describing Rachel's murder like it was a quarterly earnings report. "I authorized a permanent resolution to a liability issue." Thomas's hands clenched. He listened to the whole thing. Every word, every threat, every casual admission that people were just variables to be eliminated when they became inconvenient. When it ended, Thomas sat in silence. Then he called the one person who might believe him. The one person who'd always suspected Rachel's death wasn't an accident. Julia Martinez answered on the third ring. "Do you know what time it is?" "Julia, it's Thomas. Thomas Rivera. I need to talk to you. Now. Tonight. It can't wait." Silence. Then, "Thomas, I haven't heard from you in 2 years. What's going on?" "I have a recording of Catherine Walsh, CEO of Meridian Tech. She admitted to killing Rachel, admitted to killing multiple people, admitted to threatening Lily. I have it all on tape. I need your help." More silence. Then Julia's voice changed, became alert, professional. "Where are you?" "Home. But I can meet you anywhere. Just tell me where." "Stay there. Lock your doors. Don't talk to anyone else. I'm coming to you." Julia arrived at 2:30 a.m. in a beat-up Honda with journalism awards hanging from the rearview mirror. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed with the kind of face that had seen too much corruption to be shocked by anything anymore. Thomas let her in. Mrs. Chen had already left. Thomas had paid her, thanked her, sent her home without explaining why he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Julia sat at the kitchen table. "Play it." Thomas handed her the flip phone. Hit play. Watched Julia's face as she listened to Catherine Walsh describe ordering Rachel's murder. When it ended, Julia was pale. "Holy hell. Thomas, this is incredible. This is Pulitzer level. But it's also extremely dangerous. Does Catherine know you recorded her?" "She suspected. She told me recording without consent was illegal. But she doesn't know I actually did it. She thinks I'm just a scared janitor who'll keep quiet to protect Lily." "And are you going to keep quiet?" "Hell no. I'm going to destroy her. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what she did, what she's still doing, how many people she's killed. But I don't know how. I'm a janitor. She has unlimited resources. She told me herself she owns judges, journalists, politicians. How do I fight that? Julia was quiet for a moment. Then, you can't, not alone. But with the right help, with the right platform, with the right timing, yeah, we can fight her. We can win. How? First, we make copies of this recording. Multiple copies. Cloud storage, different devices. If Catherine realizes what you have, she'll try to destroy the evidence. We need backups everywhere. Okay, what else? We need more than the recording. We need documents, financial records, proof of the price fixing, proof of the bribes, proof that connects everything Catherine admitted to actual corporate crimes. Without that, her lawyers will claim the recording is taken out of context, that you misunderstood, that she was speaking hypothetically. We need hard evidence. How am I supposed to get that I'm a janitor? I mop floors. I don't have access to financial files. Julia leaned forward. But you have access to her office, late at night, when everyone's gone. Thomas, you've been in that building for 3 years. You know it better than anyone. Can you get into Catherine's office? Can you find documents? You want me to break in? Steal files? That's a felony, if I get caught. If you get caught, Catherine was going to destroy you anyway. She threatened to kill you, to kill Lily. You're already in danger. The question is whether you're going to hide or fight back. Thomas thought about Rachel, about the night she died, about 3 years of grief and rage and helplessness, about Lily 10 years old, dependent on medication, controlled by the woman who'd murdered her mother. I'll do it. Tell me what you need. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Julia made a list of documents, financial records, emails, memos, anything that proved Meridian's fraud. Thomas described the layout of Catherine's office, the security cameras, the blind spots he'd noticed over 3 years of mopping those floors. You need to move fast, Julia said. Catherine's going to realize you're a threat. She'll move to neutralize you. Today. Tomorrow at the latest. If you're going to do this, it has to be tonight. Tonight I can't. I have to take care of Lily. I have to. Thomas, listen to me. If Catherine decides you're a problem, Lily's in danger anyway. The only way to protect her is to expose Catherine before Catherine can strike first. You have maybe 12 hours before Catherine's people come for you. Use them. Julia left at 5 a.m. Thomas didn't sleep. He made breakfast for Lily, pancakes her favorite, watched her eat while trying not to think about Catherine's threat. Lily's assistance gets revoked. Then what happens when you can't afford her medication? Dad, you okay? Lily looked at him with those 2 smart eyes. You look weird. I'm fine, baby. Just tired. Worked late. You always work late, but you've never looked scared before. Thomas tried to smile. Failed. I'm not scared. Liar. Lily took another bite of pancake. Something happened. Something bad. Are we in trouble? No. I'm going to make sure we're safe. I promise. That's what Mom said. The night before she died. She said she was going to make sure we were safe. Then she died. Lily's voice cracked. Don't make promises you can't keep, Dad. Thomas pulled his daughter into his arms, held her tight. I'm going to keep this one, I swear. Your mom fought for what was right. She died doing it. I'm going to finish what she started, and I'm going to make sure the people who killed her pay for it. Dad, what are you talking about? Nothing. Forget it. Finish your breakfast. You're going to be late for school. After Lily left, Thomas's phone rang. His supervisor. Rivera, change of plans. You're being transferred effective immediately. Warehouse facility in Newark. Night shift. Same pay. You start tonight. Thomas's stomach dropped. Why, I've been at headquarters for 3 years. No complaints. Why transfer me now? Above my pay grade. Just following orders from corporate. You got a problem with it. Take it up with HR. But you either show up in Newark tonight or you're terminated. Your choice. The call ended. Catherine was moving him, getting him away from headquarters, away from her office, away from evidence, which meant she knew. Knew he was a threat, knew he had to be contained. Thomas had less time than he thought. He called Julia. "They're transferring me. Tonight, Catherine's moving pieces. I have to go now, today. This is my last chance." "Then go. I'll have my editor on standby. The second you send me documents, I start writing. We publish before Catherine can stop us. But Thomas, be careful. If they catch you in her office, Catherine won't wait for a trial. She'll just have Martin Cross take care of you, permanently." "I know." Thomas dropped Lily at school, kissed her forehead. "I love you, baby. Remember that. Whatever happens today, remember I love you more than anything." "Dad, you're freaking me out." "I'm sorry. I need you to know. In case—" He couldn't finish. Lily hugged him tight. "Whatever you're planning, be careful. I already lost Mom. I can't lose you too." "You won't. I promise." Another promise he might not be able to keep. Thomas drove to Meridian headquarters at noon. Called in sick to his supervisor, said he had food poisoning, couldn't make the Newark shift. Bought himself a few hours before they realized he wasn't showing up. He parked 3 blocks away, walked to the building, used his security badge, they hadn't deactivated it yet. Took the elevator to the 47th floor. Catherine's office was locked. Thomas had 3 years of watching janitorial supervisors unlock executive offices. He knew which supervisor kept a master key in his locker. Knew the locker combination because he'd watched the man enter it 100 times. He got the key, unlocked Catherine's office, slipped inside. The office was massive, sterile, everything chrome and glass and cold efficiency. Thomas went straight to her desk, locked drawers. He used the master key. They opened. Files, dozens of them. Thomas started photographing with his phone. Financial records showing payments to offshore accounts. Emails to FDA officials with wire transfer confirmations. Clinical trial data marked confidential, do not distribute, that showed drugs being approved despite dangerous side effects. And then Thomas found the whistleblower files, a folder labeled Liability Management. Inside dossiers on people who discovered Meridian's fraud. 12 names, all marked resolved. Most said financial settlement or legal intimidation. 3 said permanent solution. Rachel Rivera was one of them. Thomas photographed everything with shaking hands. Each page was more damning than the last. Proof that Catherine had been systematically silencing whistleblowers for 15 years. Proof that Rachel wasn't the first person murdered. She was just the most recent. Then Thomas found a file that made his blood freeze. Thomas Rivera, ongoing surveillance. His name, on a surveillance file. He opened it, read the first page. Subject, Thomas Rivera, husband of eliminated liability, Rachel Rivera. Status monitored since wife's termination. Employed at Meridian HQ as janitor, intentional placement for control/observation. Daughter Lily Rivera, age 10. Type 1 diabetes, enrolled in Meridian Patient Assistance Program to create leverage. Recommend continued surveillance. Subject shows no signs of suspecting wife's death was non-accidental. No action required unless status changes. They'd been watching him. For 3 years, they'd given him the janitor job deliberately. To keep him close. To monitor him. To make sure he didn't figure out the truth. And they'd kept Lily on patient assistance deliberately. As leverage. As a threat. Thomas felt sick. Kept reading. Monthly reports. Subject remains compliant. No unusual behavior. Subject attempted to contact police re wife's death investigation. Police contact Detective Morrison. On retainer discouraged further inquiry. Subject struggling financially. Daughter's medication costs increasing. Subject more dependent on patient assistance program. Excellent control mechanism. They'd been controlling his life. Manipulating him. Making sure he stayed powerless and dependent and broken. Thomas photographed every page. His hands were shaking so badly he had to retake some shots. But he got it all. Every piece of evidence that Catherine Walsh had been orchestrating his life like he was a puppet. Then he found the worst page. A memo from 3 days ago, after the elevator incident. R.E. Thomas Rivera, status change. Subject encountered CEO in elevator malfunction. Exhibited hostile behavior. Made accusations re wife's death. Possible security risk. Recommend immediate action. Options 1. Enhanced monitoring with threat assessment. 2. Financial pressure via termination of patient assistance. 3. Permanent solution if risk escalates. Awaiting CEO approval. Catherine hadn't decided yet whether to kill him. She was still weighing options. Thomas had walked into her office in the small window before she made that decision. Before Martin Cross got authorization to make him disappear. He photographed the memo, added it to the cloud storage, started backing up files. That's when he heard voices in the hallway. I don't care if he called in sick. Find him. Check his house. Check his daughter's school. Check everywhere. Catherine wants him found today. Security. Looking for him. Thomas frantically finished uploading files. Closed the drawers. Tried to exit the office quietly. The door was blocked. 2 security guards standing right outside. Radios crackling. Checking executive floor now. If Rivera's here, we'll find him. Thomas was trapped. He looked around the office. One door, the one blocked by security. Windows 47th floor, no escape. A closet too obvious. A private bathroom, maybe. Thomas slipped into Catherine's private bathroom. Locked the door. Listened to security enter the office. Clear. He's not here. Check the bathroom. Footsteps approaching. Thomas looked around frantically. A window. Small. Too small to escape through. But maybe... He opened the window. It led to a ventilation shaft. Narrow. Barely big enough for a person. The bathroom door handle jiggled. It's locked. Rivera, you in there? Open up. Thomas climbed into the ventilation shaft. Pulled the window closed behind him. Crawled through darkness. Metal scraping his shoulders. Dust choking him. Behind him, the bathroom door crashed open. He was here. The window's unlocked. Check the... Thomas kept crawling. The shaft branched. He took a turn. Another. Had no idea where he was going. Just knew he had to get out. Had to get away. Had to get the evidence to Julia before Catherine's people caught him. The shaft sloped down. Thomas slid. Crashed into a grate. It gave way. He fell. Landed hard on a concrete floor. Pain shot through his ankle. He bit back a scream. He was in a maintenance room. Basement level. No windows. One door. He could hear alarms now. Building-wide lockdown. They were searching for him. Thomas limped to the door. Cracked it open. Empty hallway. He slipped out. Found a stairwell. Started climbing. Not up, that's where security would expect him. Down. Deeper into the basement. Sub-basement. Parking garage level. His phone buzzed. Julia. Thomas, I'm seeing alerts. Meridian headquarters is on lockdown. Are you there? Are you okay? I'm in the building. I have the files. Everything. But security's hunting me. I need to get out. Can you reach the parking garage? I'm almost there. There's an exit on the south side. Maintenance entrance. No cameras. I'm sending someone to pick you up. Dark blue sedan. License plate JRM 4471. Get in that car. Don't get in any other car. Understand? Got it. Thomas reached the parking garage. Limped toward the south exit. His ankle was screaming. Might be broken. Didn't matter. Had to keep moving. He reached the maintenance exit. Pushed it open. Sunlight blinded him. A dark blue sedan was idling at the curb. License plate JRM 4471. Thomas ran. Threw himself into the back seat. Go! Just go! The driver, a young woman with a press badge, floored it. They pulled away from Meridian headquarters as security guards poured out of the building. Thomas looked back. Saw them searching. Looking for him. Calling in the license plate. They're going to track you, Thomas said. Your car. They'll find... Relax. Stolen plates. Borrowed car. They can't trace it. The driver looked at him in the rearview mirror. You, Thomas? Yeah. I'm Angela, Julia's assistant. She said you'd have evidence that would bring down Catherine Walsh. Please tell me that's true. Please tell me we didn't just help you commit corporate espionage for nothing. Thomas pulled out his phone, showed her the cloud storage. Hundreds of files. Financial fraud. Murder. Surveillance. Everything. Angela whistled. Holy hell. Julia wasn't kidding. This is going to destroy Meridian. Good. They destroyed my wife. They tried to destroy me. Time they got a taste of their own medicine. They drove to Julia's apartment. She was waiting with 2 lawyers, an editor, and enough coffee to fuel a newsroom for a week. Show me everything, Julia said. Thomas uploaded the files to her computer. Julia started reading. Her face went pale, then red, then determined. This is it. This is everything we need. Financial fraud, FDA corruption, price fixing, murder, and best of all, proof they've been doing it for 15 years. Catherine's not walking away from this. Nobody is. How long to publish? I can have a story ready by tonight. But Thomas, once this goes live, there's no taking it back. Catherine will come after you with everything she has. Lawyers, private investigators, possibly worse. Are you ready for that? Thomas thought about Rachel, about Lily, about 3 years of grief and rage and helplessness, about the file that showed Catherine had been controlling his life, manipulating him, deciding whether he deserved to live or die based on how useful he was. I've been ready for 3 years. Publish it. Publish everything. Let the world see what kind of monster Catherine Walsh really is. Julia started writing. Thomas watched the words appear on screen, watched his wife's murder become public record, watched Catherine's empire start to crumble. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Catherine Walsh's voice was ice. Mr. Rivera, you've made a serious mistake, breaking into my office, stealing confidential documents. You do realize that's a felony, that I have you on camera, that the police are looking for you right now. Let them look. By tonight, everyone's going to know what you did. To Rachel, to me, to thousands of people who died because you cared more about profit than human life. You think publishing some stolen documents will hurt me? I have lawyers who will tie this up in court for years. I have journalists who will discredit your story. I have resources you can't imagine. Then use them. But the truth is still going to come out. And when it does, you're going to prison. You're assuming you'll live that long. Martin Cross is very good at his job, Thomas. By tomorrow morning, you and that journalist friend of yours might suffer terrible accidents. Would be a shame, especially for Lily, losing both parents so young. Thomas felt rage boiling over. You threaten my daughter again and what, you'll break into more offices, steal more files? You've already committed multiple felonies. You've already destroyed any credibility you had. No jury will believe a desperate criminal over a respected CEO. This is over, Thomas. You've lost. Turn yourself in before you make things worse. I'll see you in court, Catherine. Right before they sentence you to life in prison. He hung up. Julia looked at him. That was stupid. Now she knows we're publishing. She'll try to stop us. She can try, but we're faster. How long until the story's ready? 2 hours, maybe less. I just need to fact-check a few details and... Thomas's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. An image. Lily's school. Lily walking to her next class. A red circle around her. The message, we can reach her anytime we want. Stand down, or we take her. Thomas's blood went cold. They have eyes on Lily. They're threatening to Julia. I need to get to her school. I need to... Wait. Think. If you go to her school, they'll grab you both. You need to be smarter. Call the school. Tell them Lily's in danger. Have them put her in lockdown. Then we call the police. Real police, not ones on Meridian's payroll. Thomas called Lily's school. Told them there was a credible threat. Told them to lock down. Told them he was coming to pick her up. The principal sounded skeptical. Mr. Rivera, we can't just lock down the school because my daughter is in danger. There are people watching her right now. If anything happens to her, I'm holding you personally responsible. Lock down the school. The line went dead. Thomas hoped it was because they were actually locking down, not because they thought he was crazy. Julia's editor spoke up. We have a problem. Catherine's lawyers just filed an injunction. They're trying to block publication, claiming the documents were illegally obtained. We have a hearing in 3 hours. If the judge grants the injunction, we can't publish. Then publish now, Thomas said. Before the hearing. Before they can stop you. If we publish before the hearing, we're violating a court order. We could go to jail. The publication could be shut down. And if you don't publish, Catherine gets away with murder, with killing my wife, with killing dozens of other people, with threatening to kill my daughter. Is that really a better outcome? Julia and her editor exchanged looks. He's right. We publish now. We deal with the legal fallout later. I'll take the fall, Julia said. This is my story, my decision. If anyone goes to jail, it's me. No one's going to jail, Thomas said. Because once the world sees what Catherine did, no judge is going to side with her. We publish, we expose everything, and we let the truth do the rest. Julia hit publish at 4:47 p.m. The story went live on her publication's website, then got picked up by Twitter, then by other news outlets. By 5 p.m. it was trending. By 5:30 CNN was calling for comment. By 6 p.m. the FBI had announced they were opening an investigation. And by 6:15 p.m. Thomas's phone rang again. Catherine Walsh, her voice shaking with rage. You've destroyed everything. My company, my reputation, my life. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy. My wife is still dead. But at least now everyone knows you killed her. At least now you'll face consequences. Consequences. You think this is over. You think I'm just going to accept defeat. Thomas, I have $3 billion and unlimited resources. I will spend every penny destroying you. I will make sure you never work again. Never see your daughter again. Never. The line went dead. Thomas looked at Julia. She's not going down without a fight. Neither are we. We have the truth. We have evidence. We have public support. Catherine's the one who's cornered now, not you. But Thomas knew better. Cornered animals were the most dangerous, and Catherine Walsh was about to show him just how dangerous she could be. The story hit national news at 7 p.m. Thomas watched CNN coverage from Julia's apartment, while Julia fielded calls from other journalists, wanting confirmation, wanting interviews, wanting more details. The anchor was reading directly from Julia's article. Explosive allegations tonight against Catherine Walsh, CEO of Meridian Tech, one of America's largest pharmaceutical companies. Documents obtained by investigative journalist Julia Martinez allegedly show a pattern of corporate fraud, price fixing, and most shockingly, multiple murders to silence whistleblowers. The FBI has announced an investigation. Meridian's stock has already dropped 40% in after-hours trading. Catherine Walsh has declined to comment, but her lawyers have released a statement calling these allegations baseless and defamatory. Thomas's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers offering to represent him, people claiming to be other Meridian victims. He ignored them all, except one call at 7:23 p.m. Lily's school. The principal. Mr. Rivera, we've been in lockdown for 2 hours. The police have searched the campus. There's no credible threat. I'm going to need you to come pick up your daughter now, or I'm calling child services. This is bordering on parental negligence. I'm coming. Don't let her leave with anyone but me. No one. I don't care who they say they are. Thomas drove to the school. Julia insisted on coming with him. If Martin Cross is watching, he's less likely to try something in front of a journalist. You're safer with me than alone. They arrived at Lily's school at 8 p.m. The principal was waiting with Lily in the office. Lily looked scared and confused. The principal looked furious. "Mr. Rivera, I don't know what kind of situation you're involved in, but bringing it to this school, frightening the children, disrupting our... My daughter was threatened by the people who killed her mother. I did what I had to do to keep her safe. I'm sorry for the disruption, but I'm not sorry for protecting my child." The principal's expression shifted. "The people who... What are you talking about?" Julia stepped forward. "I'm Julia Martinez, investigative journalist. The story that's on CNN right now about Meridian Tech. That's Thomas's story. His wife discovered corporate fraud and was murdered for it. Now they're threatening his daughter to keep him quiet. The lockdown wasn't paranoia. It was necessary." The principal looked at Thomas, at Lily, at Julia. "I saw that story. About the pharmaceutical CEO. You're the janitor who exposed her. I'm the husband who wants justice for his wife, and the father who's trying to keep his daughter alive." Lily spoke up. "Dad, what's going on? Why were we in lockdown? Why is everyone saying Mom was murdered?" Thomas knelt down to Lily's level. "Baby, I'll explain everything. But right now, we need to go. We need to get somewhere safe." "Safe from what?" "From the people who don't want the truth to come out." They left the school. Thomas kept looking over his shoulder, expecting Martin Cross or Meridian Security to appear. But the parking lot was empty. Too empty. Julia noticed it too. Something's wrong. Where is everyone? Where are the parents picking up their kids? "Different exit," the principal had said. "I had everyone use the north entrance. Fewer disruptions." They got to Julia's car. Thomas put Lily in the back seat, climbed in the passenger side. Julia started the engine. That's when Thomas saw the man in the dark sedan across the street, watching them. Phone to his ear. "Drive, now. We're being followed." Julia pulled out of the parking lot. The dark sedan followed. Thomas's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Martin Cross's voice was smooth, professional, terrifying in its calmness. "Mr. Rivera, I admire your persistence. Really, I do. Most people would have taken the settlement, would have protected their daughter and moved on with their lives. But you had to be righteous, had to expose everything. And now you've put Lily in danger. That's on you, not us. If you touch her, I'm not going to touch her. I'm not going to touch you, because that would be predictable. That would validate your story, make you martyrs. No. I'm going to do something much more effective. I'm going to destroy your credibility, discredit you so thoroughly that no one believes anything you say. By the time I'm done, you'll be a laughingstock. A paranoid conspiracy theorist who broke into his employer's office, stole documents, and fabricated a murder plot because you couldn't accept that your wife died in an accident. I have recordings, documents, evidence. Evidence that was illegally obtained. Evidence that my lawyers are already getting suppressed. That article Julia published, we're suing for defamation. $500 million. By tomorrow morning, her publication will be bankrupt. Her career will be over. And you'll be arrested for corporate espionage, breaking and entering, and theft of trade secrets. You'll spend the next decade in prison while Lily grows up in foster care. Was it worth it, Thomas? Was exposing Catherine worth destroying your daughter's life? The line went dead. Thomas looked at Julia. They're suing you for $500 million, and they're coming after me with criminal charges. Let them. We have the truth on our side. The truth doesn't matter if we're in prison and Lily's in foster care. Julia's phone rang. Her editor. She answered on speaker. Julia, we have a problem. Meridian's lawyers just filed an emergency motion. They're claiming the documents Thomas stole contained trade secrets and proprietary information. The judge is granting a temporary injunction. We have to take down the article. Now. Or we're in contempt of court. We're not taking it down. That article exposes murder, corporate fraud. It's in the public interest. I don't care if it exposes the second coming of Christ. If we don't comply with the court order, they'll shut us down, seize our assets. I'm sorry, Julia, but we don't have a choice. There's always a choice. We can fight this. We can't afford to fight this. Meridian has unlimited resources. We're a small publication. We're already struggling financially. A $500 million lawsuit will bankrupt us in a week. I'm pulling the article. It's coming down in 10 minutes. You pull that article, and Catherine wins. She gets away with everything. And if I don't pull it, we lose everything. I have employees who need paychecks, families who depend on this publication. I can't sacrifice them for one story no matter how important. I'm sorry. The editor hung up. Julia was shaking. They're taking it down. After everything, they're just taking it down. It's already out there, Thomas said. People saw it. Other outlets picked it up. You can't unring a bell. But without the primary source, without my article, the other outlets will drop it too. They'll say it's unverified, unsubstantiated. Catherine's lawyers will claim it was all fabricated. And without the article to point to, we have nothing. Lily spoke up from the back seat. What about the files, the documents Dad took? Can't you just post those somewhere? Julia and Thomas looked at each other. She's right, Thomas said. The documents. We post them publicly, not through a publication. Just raw files, on the internet. Let people see for themselves. That's still illegal. You're still distributing stolen documents. I'm distributing evidence of murder. Let them arrest me. At least the truth will be out there. They went back to Julia's apartment. Thomas started uploading files to every platform he could think of. Reddit, Twitter, document sharing sites. Anywhere people could access them and spread them before Meridian's lawyers could get them taken down. By 9 p.m., the files were everywhere. By 9:30, hashtag Meridian Files was trending. By 10 p.m., major news outlets were downloading the documents and analyzing them on air. Catherine's lawyers tried to get them removed, sent cease and desist letters to platforms, threatened lawsuits. But the internet doesn't work that way. The more they tried to suppress the files, the more people shared them. The Streisand effect in full force. Thomas's phone rang at 10:47 p.m. A number he recognized. Detective Morrison, the cop who'd investigated Rachel's death. The cop Thomas now knew was on Meridian's payroll. Mr. Rivera, this is Detective Morrison. I need you to come in for questioning regarding a break-in at Meridian Tech headquarters. We have you on camera entering restricted areas taking documents. That's burglary, corporate espionage. You're looking at serious charges. I was recovering evidence of my wife's murder, evidence you ignored 3 years ago when you closed her case without a real investigation. Your wife died in an accident. The medical examiner confirmed brake failure. You need to accept that and stop harassing innocent people. Innocent Catherine Walsh ordered Rachel's murder. I have her on tape admitting it. I have documents proving it. And I know you helped cover it up. How much did they pay you, detective? How much was my wife's life worth to you? Silence. Then, you're making serious accusations against a police officer. Accusations that could land you in even more trouble. I suggest you turn yourself in before this gets worse. We can talk about a deal. Reduce charges if you cooperate. Cooperate with what? Confessing to crimes I didn't commit. Recanting the truth not happening. You want me come find me. But I'm not making it easy. Thomas hung up. Julia looked at him. You just told a cop to come arrest you. What are you thinking? I'm thinking they want me to hide, to run, to look guilty. So I'm doing the opposite. I'm staying visible, staying public, making it impossible for them to make me disappear quietly. Or you're making it easier for them to arrest you. Either way, the truth is already out there. They can't bury it anymore. But Thomas underestimated Catherine's reach. At 11 p.m., his bank called. His accounts had been frozen. Court order. Pending investigation into whether the accounts contained proceeds from criminal activity. His landlord called at 11:15. Eviction notice. Immediate. Apparently, Thomas had violated the lease by using the apartment for illegal activities. Had 24 hours to vacate. Lily's school called at 11:30. Lily was being suspended pending an investigation into whether Thomas was a fit guardian. Child Services had been contacted. And, at 11:47, exactly 12 hours after the elevator incident, Thomas's phone rang with the call he'd been dreading. Mr. Rivera, this is County Hospital. Your daughter's patient assistance program has been terminated. Her insulin prescription is no longer covered. You'll need to pay $1,200 for this month's supply, or we can't release it. Thomas felt the room spin. You can't do that. That's murder. Lily needs that insulin to survive. I understand, sir, but according to our records, Meridian Tech has revoked her assistant status. Something about fraudulent application information. If you have questions, you'll need to contact Meridian directly. Fraudulent information. What are you talking about? I can't discuss details. I'm just informing you that the prescription needs to be paid in full before we can release it. Do you have a credit card on file? My accounts are frozen. I don't have $1,200. Can you give me time to? We can hold the prescription for 48 hours. After that, it gets returned to inventory. I'm sorry, sir. Thomas hung up, looked at Lily. She was pale, scared. Dad, my insulin. They can't just, I need that. I'll die without it. I know, baby, I know. I'll figure something out, I promise. But how? His accounts were frozen. His credit cards were maxed out. He had maybe $40 cash, and Lily needed $1,200 worth of insulin in the next 48 hours, or she'd go into diabetic ketoacidosis, would end up in the ICU, might die. Catherine had found the perfect leverage. Not threats, not violence, just cutting off the medication that kept Thomas's daughter alive. Legal, defensible, impossible to fight in court before Lily died. Julia saw the panic on Thomas's face. What do we do? I don't know. I can't let Lily die. But I can't give Catherine what she wants either. If I recant, if I say the documents were fake, Rachel's murder goes unpunished. Catherine wins. She keeps killing people. She keeps destroying families. And Rachel died for nothing. So what's the answer? Let Lily die to protect the truth. No, of course not. Thomas couldn't finish, couldn't think, couldn't see a way out. That's when Julia's phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. She answered cautiously. Ms. Martinez, my name is Rebecca Chen. I'm a former Meridian employee. I saw your article before it was taken down. I have information about other victims, about other murders, about how deep this goes, and I want to help. Julia put the phone on speaker. What kind of information? I was Catherine Walsh's executive assistant for 7 years. I saw everything, approved everything. I have copies of emails, financial records, communications between Catherine and Martin Cross about eliminating threats. I've been sitting on this evidence for 2 years because I was terrified. But after seeing what they're doing to Mr. Rivera, what they're doing to his daughter, I can't stay silent anymore. I want to testify. I want to help bring Catherine down. Thomas felt hope flickering. Why should we trust you? For all we know, you're working for Catherine, trying to set us up. I'm not. I quit Meridian 2 years ago after I saw what happened to Rachel Rivera. I knew it wasn't an accident. I knew Martin Cross had her killed, and I've been living with that guilt ever since. I should have said something, should have gone to the police, but I was scared. I had a family, kids. Catherine made it very clear what happened to people who betrayed her. So I took a settlement, signed an NDA, and disappeared. But I can't let them destroy another family. I have to help. What do you have? What evidence? Everything. Emails showing Catherine personally ordering the brake line sabotage on Rachel's car. Financial records showing payments to corrupt officials. A list of 12 other people who were murdered to protect Meridian's fraud. And most importantly, I have recordings. Catherine doesn't know, but I recorded every executive meeting for 2 years. Every decision. Every order. Every crime. It's all documented. Julia's eyes went wide. You recorded Catherine ordering murders. Multiple times. I have her telling Martin Cross to handle problems permanently. To make sure whistleblowers never testified. To do whatever it takes to protect the company. It's all there. And I'll give it all to you. Free. No strings attached. I just want immunity for my cooperation and witness protection for my family. Why are you coming forward now? Why not 2 years ago? Because 2 years ago I was a coward. But watching what Catherine's doing to Mr. Rivera, to his daughter, I have kids. I can't imagine losing them. I can't imagine someone threatening their medication to keep me quiet. If that was my child, I'd want someone to help. So I'm helping, if you'll have me. Thomas looked at Julia. Could be a trap. Could be our only chance. Rebecca Chen continued. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either. So here's what I'll do. I'll send you one file, right now, a sample. Proof I have what I say I have. You verify it's real. Then we talk about how to proceed. Fair. Fair, Julia said. Send it. 2 minutes later, Julia's email pinged. An audio file. She played it. Catherine Walsh's voice. Crystal clear. Dated 18 months ago. Martin, we have a problem. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo at the FDA is asking questions about our clinical trial data for Novaplex. She's noticed the discrepancies we buried. If she keeps digging, if she files a formal inquiry, we're looking at criminal charges and billions in liability. Martin Cross responded. Do we try to discredit her, pay her off? We've tried both. She's incorruptible, which means she's a liability. Handle it. Permanently. Make it look natural. Heart attack. Stroke? I don't care. Just make sure she doesn't file that inquiry. Understood. I'll take care of it personally. Good. And Martin? Make absolutely certain this can't be traced back to us. We can't afford another Rachel Rivera situation where the husband starts asking questions. The recording ended. Thomas felt sick. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. I remember reading about her. She died of a heart attack 14 months ago. 43 years old. Perfectly healthy. No family history of heart disease. I thought it was suspicious, but... She was murdered, Julia finished. Just like Rachel. Just like however many others. Rebecca Chen's voice came through the phone. That's one of 12 recordings I have. 12 different people Catherine ordered killed. I have documentation on all of them. Deaths ruled natural causes or accidents. All people who threatened Meridian's profits. All murdered. And I have proof. Why didn't you go to the FBI? Thomas asked. Why sit on this for 2 years? Because the FBI is compromised. Catherine has contacts there. People who owe her favors. If I'd gone to law enforcement directly, I'd be dead. Just like all the others. But going public, going to journalists, creating a story so big it can't be buried, that's different. That's safe. That's how we win. Julia was already thinking. If you testify, if you give us these recordings, Catherine can't suppress this. Even with all her lawyers and connections, she can't explain away 12 murders on tape. This is enough to put her away forever. But only if we move fast, Rebecca said. Catherine will figure out I'm involved. We'll figure out I've been recording. Once she does, she'll disappear evidence. We'll have Martin Cross tie up loose ends. We have maybe 24 hours before she realizes the threat and acts. We need to go to the media, to the FBI, to everyone simultaneously. Make it impossible for her to stop all of us. Thomas thought about Lily. About the insulin she needed in 48 hours. About Catherine holding his daughter's life hostage. If we do this, if we go public with everything, Catherine will retaliate. She'll come after all of us, our families, everything. She's already coming after you, Rebecca pointed out. She's already threatening your daughter. At this point, what do you have to lose? Lily. I could lose Lily. Julia put a hand on Thomas's shoulder. Or you could save her. Catherine's leverage only works if you're alone, if you're desperate. But if we have 12 murder victims, if we have recordings, if we have Rebecca's testimony, Catherine loses her power. The FBI will have to act. And once she's arrested, once her assets are frozen, she can't cut off Lily's medication. She can't do anything. She's just another criminal waiting for trial. Thomas wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe that the system would protect them. But he'd seen how the system worked, how Catherine had corrupted it, how money could buy justice. What if it's not enough? What if Catherine's lawyers get her out? What if she disappears to a country without extradition? What if— "Then we've still done the right thing," Julia said. "We've still exposed the truth. We've still given Rachel's death meaning. And we've still fought instead of surrendering. That has to count for something." Rebecca Chen spoke up again. "Mr. Rivera, I understand your fear. But think about this. If you do nothing, if you stay quiet to protect Lily, Catherine will still come after you eventually. You know too much. You're too dangerous. She'll wait until you let your guard down, then she'll have Martin Cross handle you. And Lily will end up an orphan anyway. The only way to truly protect your daughter is to put Catherine in prison, where she can't hurt anyone ever again. That requires taking the risk. That requires fighting, even when you're terrified." Thomas looked at Lily. She was listening to all of this, understanding more than a 10-year-old should have to understand. "Dad," Lily said quietly, "Mom would fight. She wouldn't let them win. She'd do whatever it took to stop them. Even if it was scary. Even if it was dangerous. She'd fight." Thomas felt tears burning his eyes. "Your mom got killed for fighting." "But she was right. And you said we don't abandon truth just because it's hard. You said that's what makes us different from them. So we fight. We expose everything. We make sure everyone knows what Catherine did. And maybe that's how we keep me safe. Not by hiding. By making it impossible for her to hurt us, without everyone watching." Thomas pulled Lily into his arms, held her tight. "When did you get so brave?" "I learned from Mom. And from you." Thomas looked at Julia. At the phone where Rebecca Chen was waiting. At the choice in front of him. Fight and risk losing everything. Or surrender and definitely lose everything. Not really a choice at all. "Okay," Thomas said. "We do it. We release everything. All 12 murders. All the recordings. All the evidence. We make this so big that Catherine can't suppress it. We end this. Tonight." Rebecca Chen's relief was audible. "Thank you. I'll send everything to Julia's secure server. All the files, all the recordings. Everything I have. You publish it. I'll simultaneously send copies to the FBI, the SEC, the Department of Justice. By morning, Catherine won't have anywhere to hide." "And you?" Thomas asked. "Where will you be?" "Somewhere safe, with my family. I've been planning this for 2 years. I have new identities, untraceable accounts, a place Catherine can't find us. I'll testify when it goes to trial, but until then, I'm a ghost." "Must be nice," Thomas said bitterly. "Being able to disappear, having resources to protect yourself. I'm sorry you don't have that luxury. But Mr. Rivera, you have something better. You have righteousness. You have the truth. You have public support. Catherine can't make you disappear the way she can make me disappear. You're too visible, too important to the story. That's your protection. Use it." They worked through the night. Julia writing, Thomas uploading files, Rebecca sending recordings. By 3 a.m. they had a comprehensive package. 12 murders, dozens of victims, billions in fraud. All documented, all proven, all ready to publish. Julia looked at Thomas. "Last chance to back out. Once this goes live, there's no taking it back. Catherine will throw everything she has at us. Are you ready for that?" Thomas thought about Rachel, about Lily, about all the people Catherine had killed and all the people she'd kill in the future if someone didn't stop her. "I've been ready for 3 years. Publish it. Let the world see who Catherine Walsh really is." Julia hit publish at 4:17 a.m. The story exploded. Within an hour, it was on every major news site. Within 2 hours, the FBI had issued a statement that they were opening a criminal investigation. Within 3 hours, Meridian's board of directors had placed Catherine on administrative leave. And within 4 hours, Thomas's phone rang. Catherine Walsh, for the last time. "You've won," she said. Her voice was hollow, defeated. "I hope you're happy. I hope destroying my life was worth it." "You destroyed your own life. You murdered my wife. You threatened my daughter. You killed 12 innocent people. This isn't on me. This is on you. Enjoy your victory, Thomas, because it won't last. My lawyers will drag this out for years. I'll die of old age before I see a day in prison. And in the meantime, I'll make sure you suffer, every single day, for the rest of your miserable life. You can't make me suffer more than you already have. You killed Rachel. Nothing you do to me will ever hurt worse than that." Catherine laughed. It was the laugh of someone who had nothing left to lose. "You think losing Rachel was the worst thing that could happen, oh Thomas. You have no idea how much more you can lose. By the time I'm done, you'll wish you'd stayed quiet. You'll wish you'd taken the settlement and walked away. But it's too late now. The war has started, and I never lose wars." The line went dead. Thomas looked at Julia and Lily, at the life he'd built, at the fight he'd chosen. Catherine was right about one thing. The war had started, but Thomas had something Catherine didn't have. He had the truth, and in the end, that would be enough. It had to be. The FBI arrived at Julia's apartment at 6 a.m. 2 agents, professional, serious. They wanted to interview Thomas about the documents, the recordings, everything he knew about Meridian's fraud. "Mr. Rivera, we need you to come with us, voluntarily. We're not arresting you, but we need a formal statement about how you obtained these files." Thomas looked at Lily. She was exhausted, hadn't slept all night, her insulin pump beeping a low battery warning. "I can't leave my daughter. She needs me. We'll make arrangements for her care while—" "No. You want my statement, you take it here, with my daughter present. I'm not leaving her alone. Not with Martin Cross still out there." The agents exchanged glances. The older one nodded. "Fine. We'll do it here. But Mr. Rivera, you need to understand, breaking into Catherine Walsh's office, taking those documents, that's illegal, regardless of what they contained. You could face charges." "Then charge me." "But Catherine killed my wife, killed 12 other people, threatened my daughter. I'd commit 1,000 crimes to expose her. So yeah, I broke into her office. I took documents. And I'd do it again." The interview lasted 4 hours. Thomas told them everything. The elevator conversation, the recordings, breaking into Catherine's office, finding the surveillance file with his name on it, every detail. "And you're willing to testify to all of this under oath?" the younger agent asked. "Absolutely. Even knowing Catherine's lawyers will destroy you on cross-examination. Will paint you as a grieving husband who fabricated evidence, who's delusional. Obsessed. Let them try. I have recordings, documents. Rebecca Chen's testimony. The truth doesn't need my credibility. It stands on its own." The older agent closed his notebook. "Mr. Rivera, off the record, I believe you. I've been investigating corporate fraud for 20 years. I've never seen anything this blatant, this evil. Catherine Walsh ordered murders like she was ordering coffee. If half of what you've given us holds up in court, she'll spend the rest of her life in prison." "What about Martin Cross?" "He's the one who actually killed Rachel. Killed all of them. When are you arresting him?" "We're working on it, but Cross is smart. He's already lawyered up, already claiming he was just following orders. That Catherine coerced him, that he's a victim too. He murdered my wife. He's claiming to be a victim. Welcome to the legal system. Everyone's a victim when they're facing prison time. But don't worry, we have him on tape discussing the murders. He's not walking away from this." After the FBI left, Thomas's phone rang. The hospital. About Lily's insulin. "Mr. Rivera, we've been contacted by multiple donors who saw the news coverage. They want to pay for Lily's insulin. All of it. Plus 6 months of supplies in advance. You don't owe anything. Thomas nearly dropped the phone. What? Who would do that? People who are angry about what Meridian did to your family. People who are diabetic themselves and know how expensive insulin is. People who just want to help. We have over $15,000 in donations, more than enough to cover Lily's medication for a year. Thomas started crying, couldn't help it. Thank you. Thank you so much. When can I pick it up? Anytime. It's ready whenever you are. Thomas hung up and hugged Lily. We're okay, baby. People are helping us. You're going to be okay. I know, Dad, because we did the right thing. And when you do the right thing, good people help you. But not everyone wanted to help. At 11 a.m., Thomas's phone rang. His landlord. Mr. Rivera, I'm sorry, but I'm enforcing the eviction. You have 24 hours to vacate. I've been getting calls, threats, people saying if I let you stay, they'll burn down the building. I have other tenants to think about. I can't risk their safety for you. Threats from who? Anonymous, but they mentioned Meridian, mentioned Catherine Walsh. I'm sorry, but you need to go. Thomas looked around Julia's apartment. At Lily on the couch. At the laptop still displaying the article that had destroyed Catherine's empire. I don't have anywhere to go. My accounts are frozen. I can't afford rent anywhere. That's not my problem. Be out by tomorrow or I'm calling the police to remove you. Julia overheard the conversation. You can stay here, both of you. I have a spare room. Stay as long as you need. Julia, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Catherine's already suing me for $500 million. Already destroyed my career. What's she going to do? Sue me harder? You're staying here. End of discussion. At 2 p.m., Catherine's lawyers held a press conference. Thomas watched it on TV with mounting rage. Catherine's lead attorney, a man who probably cost $2,000 an hour, stood behind a podium with Catherine beside him, looking devastated. Fake devastated. Oscar-worthy devastated. Ms. Walsh has been the victim of a coordinated smear campaign by a disturbed individual with a vendetta. Thomas Rivera is a man who could not accept that his wife died in a tragic accident. Instead of seeking help for his obvious mental health issues, he broke into Ms. Walsh's office, stole confidential documents, and fabricated a conspiracy theory involving murder and corporate fraud. The so-called evidence he's published has been taken out of context, manipulated, and in some cases outright falsified. Ms. Walsh is devastated that her compassion for Mr. Rivera, allowing him to work at Meridian, despite his documented psychological issues, has been repaid with these malicious lies. She will be fully cooperating with law enforcement and pursuing all legal remedies against Mr. Rivera and the journalists who helped him spread these defamatory falsehoods. Catherine stepped to the microphone. Her eyes were red. She looked wounded, vulnerable. A masterclass in manipulation. I want to say directly to Thomas Rivera, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry Rachel died. But destroying my life, my company, and the lives of thousands of Meridian employees won't bring her back. Please get help. Get counseling. Stop this crusade before you hurt more innocent people. Thomas threw his remote at the TV. Innocent. She's calling herself innocent. Julia put a hand on his shoulder. She's playing to the jury, to public opinion, making herself the victim. It's what powerful people do when they're caught. It's working. Look at the comments. Thomas pulled up social media. Half the comments supported him, called Catherine a murderer, demanded justice, but the other half called him crazy. Said he was a conspiracy theorist. Said he fabricated evidence because he couldn't accept his wife's death. They believe her, Thomas whispered. Even with recordings, even with documents. They believe her over me. Not everyone. And the FBI believes you. That's what matters. But public opinion mattered too. By 4 p.m., a protest had formed outside Julia's building. Not protesters supporting Thomas. Protesters supporting Catherine. Carrying signs, Meridian saves lives. Stop the witch hunt. Catherine Walsh is innocent. Someone had leaked Julia's address. leaked that Thomas was staying there. The crowd was chanting. Some were throwing things at the building. Police had to form a barrier. "We need to leave," Julia said. "This is getting dangerous." "Where do we go?" "Everywhere I go, they'll follow. Catherine's turning me into public enemy number one." Thomas's phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. He answered cautiously, "Mr. Rivera. This is Senator Patricia Morrison. I've been following your case. I'd like to help." "Help? How are you going to hold hearings?" "Investigate Meridian." "I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to give you a platform. Tomorrow morning I'm holding a press conference about pharmaceutical price fixing. I want you there. I want you to tell your story to the country. To show people that you're not crazy. That Catherine Walsh is exactly what you say she is." "Catherine's lawyers will destroy me. They'll say I'm lying. Let them try." "Mr. Rivera, I've been fighting pharmaceutical companies for 20 years. I've seen what they do, how they manipulate, how they buy off politicians and regulators. Your story, your wife's story, it's the ammunition I've needed to finally pass reform legislation. Help me. Help me make sure Rachel didn't die for nothing." Thomas looked at Lily, at Julia, at the choice in front of him. Hide and let Catherine control the narrative, or fight back, publicly, knowing Catherine would come at him with everything she had. "Okay, I'll do it. When and where?" "Capitol Hill, 9 a.m. I'll have security waiting for you. You'll be safe, I promise." The next morning, Thomas and Lily flew to Washington, D.C. Julia came with them, documenting everything. Senator Morrison had arranged private security ex-Secret Service agents who took their jobs seriously. The press conference was in a Senate hearing room, packed with reporters, cameras everywhere. Senator Morrison at the podium with Thomas beside her. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Thomas Rivera, husband of Rachel Rivera, a financial analyst who discovered massive fraud at Meridian Tech. Rachel was murdered for what she found. Her brake lines were deliberately sabotaged. Her death was made to look like an accident. And for 3 years, Thomas has been trying to get justice for her. Trying to expose the truth. Today he's going to tell you what he found, and why pharmaceutical companies like Meridian need to be held accountable." Thomas stepped to the microphone. His hands were shaking. Millions of people were watching. Catherine was watching. Martin Cross was watching. The whole world was watching. "My name is Thomas Rivera. 3 years ago, my wife Rachel was murdered by Meridian Tech because she discovered they were illegally price-fixing medications. Insulin, cancer drugs, life-saving medications that people need to survive. Meridian tripled prices, quadrupled them, made them unaffordable. And when Rachel tried to expose them, they killed her." A reporter shouted a question. "Mr. Rivera, Catherine Walsh says you're mentally unstable, that you fabricated this conspiracy because you can't accept your wife's accident. What do you say to that?" "I say listen to the recordings. Listen to Catherine admitting she authorized a permanent solution to the Rachel Rivera problem. Listen to her discussing eliminating other whistleblowers. Listen to Rebecca Chen's testimony about 12 murders. Then, tell me if I'm crazy. Tell me if I'm making this up." Another reporter. "The documents you stole, Catherine's lawyers, say they're taken out of context, that you manipulated them to support your narrative. Then let Meridian release the full documents. Let them show the context. Let them explain why Catherine had a surveillance file on me. Why she kept me under observation for 3 years. Why she deliberately gave me a job at Meridian so she could control me. If I'm lying, the full documents will prove it. So release them. I dare her." Senator Morrison stepped back to the microphone. "That's exactly what we're demanding. Full transparency. Full disclosure. Meridian has claimed these documents are trade secrets, but you can't claim trade secret protection for evidence of crimes. If Catherine Walsh is innocent, she has nothing to hide. Release the documents. Submit to a federal investigation. Cooperate fully. Unless she's guilty. Unless she's exactly what Thomas Rivera says she is." The press conference lasted an hour. Thomas answered every question, stayed calm, stayed factual, stayed focused on Rachel, on the victims, on the truth. When it ended, Senator Morrison pulled him aside. "You did well. Really well. Catherine's going to be furious. But you've shifted public opinion. People are listening now. What happens next?" "The FBI continues their investigation. Grand jury convenes. If they find enough evidence, and they will, Catherine gets indicted, goes to trial, and you testify. You tell a jury exactly what you told those cameras today. And if her lawyers get the evidence suppressed, if they claim illegal search, illegal recordings, everything I found gets thrown out. Then we fight harder. We find more evidence. We don't give up. Because giving up means Catherine wins. Means she keeps killing people. Means Rachel died for nothing. Are you willing to fight as long as it takes?" Thomas thought about Rachel, about Lily, about the 12 other victims Catherine had murdered, about the thousands of people who'd died because they couldn't afford the medications Meridian had price-fixed. "I'll fight until Catherine's in prison. Or until I'm dead. Whichever comes first." That night, Catherine made her move. Not against Thomas, against Rebecca Chen. Julia got the call at 11 p.m. One of her sources at the FBI. Rebecca Chen's house had burned down. Arson. Rebecca and her family had escaped, were in witness protection now. But all the physical evidence she'd kept, documents, backup drives, everything had been destroyed. "Catherine's cleaning house," Julia said. "Destroying evidence. Eliminating witnesses." "Did Rebecca's testimony survive?" Thomas asked. "Did she give the FBI everything before?" "She gave them copies. Digital files. But Catherine's lawyers are already arguing those files are inadmissible, claiming Rebecca was a disgruntled employee with a vendetta, claiming she fabricated the recordings. Without the physical evidence to verify authenticity, it's going to be hard to prove. So Catherine's going to walk. After everything. After all the evidence. She's going to get away with it. Not if you testify. Not if you make the jury understand what Catherine is. You're the key witness, Thomas. You're the one who heard her confession in that elevator. You're the one who found the documents in her office. You're the linchpin of the entire case. Which makes me the biggest threat to Catherine. Which means she's going to come after me next. Julia didn't deny it. You need protection. Real protection. FBI safe house. Armed guards. You and Lily both. I can't hide. If I disappear, Catherine wins the PR battle. She'll say I ran because I'm guilty, because I fabricated everything and can't back it up. Then you stay visible. Stay public. Do more interviews. More press conferences. Make yourself so famous that Catherine can't touch you without everyone noticing. Thomas did exactly that. Every news show that wanted him, he appeared. Every journalist that asked for an interview, he granted. He became the face of the case against Catherine Walsh, the grieving husband who'd exposed a billionaire's crimes, and Catherine hated it. Her lawyers filed motion after motion trying to silence him, claiming he was tainting the jury pool, claiming he was violating her right to a fair trial. The judge denied most of them, but warned Thomas to stick to facts, not opinions. 3 weeks after the press conference, the grand jury returned indictments. Catherine Walsh, 12 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, 47 counts of corporate fraud, 23 counts of bribery, 15 counts of obstruction of justice. Martin Cross, 12 counts of murder, multiple counts of assault, intimidation, witness tampering. The bail hearing was televised. Catherine's lawyers argued she wasn't a flight risk. She had deep ties to the community. She was a philanthropist, a job creator, an asset to society. The prosecutor, a woman named Sarah Kim, who'd built her career on taking down white-collar criminals, had a different argument. Your Honor, the defendant has $3 billion in assets, access to private jets, property in 7 countries, many of which don't have extradition treaties with the United States. She has already demonstrated a willingness to murder people to protect her interests. She has the means, the motive, and the demonstrated history of eliminating threats. If you release her on bail, she will either flee the country or attempt to harm witnesses. Either way, justice will be denied. I'm asking for remand without bail pending trial. Catherine's lawyer scoffed. Your Honor, these are baseless accusations from a prosecutor grandstanding for the media. Ms. Walsh is a respected businesswoman with no prior criminal record. The idea that she would flee or harm anyone is absurd. We request bail be set at a reasonable amount. The judge looked at Catherine, really looked at her. Ms. Walsh, I've reviewed the evidence presented by the prosecution, the recordings, the documents, the testimony from Rebecca Chen and Thomas Rivera. I find the prosecution's arguments compelling. You represent a significant flight risk and a potential danger to witnesses. Bail is denied. You will be remanded to federal custody pending trial. Catherine's composure cracked. Just for a second. Her face went white. She whispered something to her lawyer. He shook his head. There was nothing he could do. The marshals led Catherine away in handcuffs. Thomas watched from the gallery, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no victory, just emptiness. Rachel was still dead. Lily had still grown up without a mother. Justice didn't undo any of that. But it was something. It was accountability. And it was a start. The trial was set for 6 months out. 6 months of preparation. 6 months of Catherine's lawyers filing motions. 6 months of Thomas living in fear that Martin Cross would make bail would come after him and Lily. But Cross didn't make bail either. The judge ruled he was too dangerous to release, so both of them sat in federal detention, waiting for trial. Thomas tried to rebuild his life, got a job at a construction company the owner had seen his story on TV and wanted to help, moved into a small apartment with Lily, started therapy to deal with the trauma of everything that had happened. Lily started therapy too. Processing her mother's murder, processing the fear of the past month, processing everything a 10-year-old shouldn't have to process. "Dad, do you think Mom would be proud of us?" Lily asked one night. "I think she'd be proud you're strong, that you didn't break, that you kept fighting." "I didn't fight. You did. I was just there. You were brave when I was terrified. You reminded me why I was fighting. You kept me going when I wanted to give up. That's fighting, Lily. That's being strong." 3 weeks before the trial, Thomas got a visitor he didn't expect, Martin Cross's lawyer. "Mr. Rivera, my client, would like to speak with you. He has information. Information that could help your case against Catherine Walsh. But he wants something in exchange." What could Martin Cross possibly tell me that I don't already know? Details. Specifics. The names of everyone Catherine ordered killed. The methods used. The evidence that was destroyed. Everything. He'll testify against Catherine. Give you everything you need to guarantee her conviction. In exchange, he wants a deal. Reduced sentence. Witness protection after he serves his time. He murdered my wife. Why would I help him get a reduced sentence? Because he can guarantee Catherine spends the rest of her life in prison. Isn't that what you want, justice for Rachel? Thomas wanted to say no, wanted to tell Martin Cross to rot in prison for the rest of his life. But he thought about Catherine, about her walking free if the evidence wasn't strong enough, about her buying her way out of consequences one more time. What does he want? Specifically, 20 years instead of life, possibility of parole after 15, protective custody, new identity after release. And in exchange, everything, every murder, every detail, every piece of evidence Catherine thinks she destroyed. Martin kept records. Insurance, he called it, in case Catherine ever tried to throw him under the bus, which is exactly what she's doing now. Her lawyers are claiming Martin acted alone, that she knew nothing about the murders, that he was a rogue employee. Martin's willing to prove that's a lie, but only if you support his plea deal. Thomas looked at Lily, at Julia, at the choice in front of him. Give the man who murdered Rachel a chance at freedom, or risk Catherine walking free. I need to think about it. You have 48 hours. After that, Martin withdraws the offer, takes his chances at trial, and maybe Catherine's lawyers are good enough to pin everything on him. Maybe she walks. Is that a risk you're willing to take? The lawyer left. Thomas sat in silence. What are you going to do? Julia asked. I don't know. Rachel would want justice. But would she want the man who killed her to get a reduced sentence? Would she want me to make that deal? Rachel would want Catherine to pay. That's what this was always about, stopping Catherine from killing anyone else. If Martin's testimony does that, if it guarantees Catherine never gets out of prison, maybe that's worth it. Lily spoke up. Dad, if you don't make the deal and Catherine goes free, she'll kill more people. More families will lose their moms. More kids will grow up without mothers. Is revenge against Martin worth that? Thomas looked at his 10-year-old daughter and saw Rachel. Saw the same moral clarity, the same willingness to make hard choices for the right reasons. No, he said quietly. It's not worth it. He called Martin's lawyer. Tell him I'll support the deal, but I want to hear him say it. I want him to admit what he did to Rachel, face to face. If he can do that, if he can look me in the eye and confess, then I'll tell the prosecutor to accept his offer. 2 days later, Thomas sat across from Martin Cross in a federal detention center. Armed guards, bulletproof glass. Martin on one side, Thomas on the other. Martin looked smaller than Thomas remembered, diminished. Prison had stripped away the veneer of power. Mr. Rivera, thank you for coming. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it to make sure Catherine pays for what she did. I understand, and I want you to know I'm sorry. For your wife, for what I did. I was following orders, but that's not an excuse. I made choices. I chose to sabotage Rachel's brake line. I chose to watch her die. I chose to help cover it up, and I've regretted it every day since. Have you really? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Martin was quiet for a moment. Both. I'm sorry I got caught. I'm sorry I'm going to prison. But I'm also sorry for what I did. I've done terrible things, Mr. Rivera. Killed 12 people for Catherine. Ruined countless lives. I told myself it was business. Just following orders. Just doing my job. But that's a lie. I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong. And I did it anyway because Catherine paid me well, and I didn't want to be the next person eliminated. Tell me about Rachel. Tell me exactly what you did. Martin took a breath. Catherine ordered it 3 days before your wife died. Said Rachel was becoming a problem. Had evidence of the price fixing. Was threatening to go to the SEC. Catherine wanted it handled permanently, made to look like an accident. I had access to Meridian's parking garage. I went in during the night shift, found Rachel's car, cut the brake line partially, enough that it would fail within a few days, made it look like normal wear and tear. Then I waited. 3 days later, Rachel drove to work. Brakes failed on the highway. She went off the bridge. And that was that. Problem solved. Thomas wanted to reach through the glass and strangle Martin. Wanted to make him suffer the way Rachel had suffered. But he stayed calm. Stayed focused. Why are you telling me this now? Why confess? Because Catherine's throwing me under the bus. Claiming she knew nothing. Claiming I acted alone. She's going to let me take the fall for everything while she walks free. And I'm done protecting her. I kept records, emails, recordings, proof that Catherine ordered every single murder. I'll give you everything. I'll testify. I'll make sure she never sees freedom again. All I want is a reduced sentence and a chance to maybe someday have a life again. You don't deserve a life. You killed 12 people. I know, but I'm asking anyway. 20 years. Possibility of parole. New identity. That's what I want. And in exchange, I guarantee Catherine Walsh dies in prison. Thomas looked at the man who'd murdered his wife, thought about Rachel, about justice, about whether making a deal with a killer was worth ensuring the person who ordered the killing faced consequences. I'll support your deal. But Martin, if you're lying, if you're holding anything back, if you protect Catherine in any way during your testimony, I'll make sure you never see parole. I'll make sure every victim's family knows what you did. I'll make sure you spend every day of the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Understand? I understand. And Mr. Rivera, I mean it. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. Thomas stood up. Your sorry doesn't bring Rachel back, but your testimony might stop Catherine from killing anyone else. That's the only reason I'm agreeing to this. The only reason. He walked out without looking back. The prosecutor accepted Martin's plea deal. 20 years. Testimony against Catherine. Full cooperation. The trial was 3 weeks away. And Thomas was going to make sure Catherine Walsh faced every single consequence she'd spent 30 years avoiding, even if it meant making a deal with the devil who'd murdered his wife. The trial of Catherine Walsh began on a Monday in October. Federal courthouse packed with media victims' families, protesters on both sides. Thomas sat in the front row with Lily. Julia was there documenting everything. Rebecca Chen was in witness protection, but would testify via video link. Catherine walked in wearing a modest suit, hair pulled back, no jewelry. Her lawyers had clearly coached her to look sympathetic, humble, nothing like the billionaire CEO who'd ordered 12 murders. The jury was selected after 3 days of arguments. 7 women, 5 men, mix of ages and backgrounds. People who Catherine's lawyers couldn't automatically exclude, but who the prosecution hoped would see through her performance. Prosecutor Sarah Kim gave her opening statement first. She was in her 40s. Sharp had prosecuted corporate criminals for 15 years. She didn't waste time. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about power. About what happens when someone has so much money, so much influence that they believe they're above the law. Catherine Walsh ordered the deaths of 12 people, not because they threatened her life, because they threatened her profits. Rachel Rivera discovered Meridian was illegally price-fixing medications. People were dying because they couldn't afford insulin. Catherine's response wasn't to fix the problem. It was to eliminate Rachel, permanently. And she did the same thing to 11 other people who got in her way. Whistleblowers, journalists, FDA officials, anyone who threatened the $3 billion fraud scheme she'd been running for 15 years. The evidence will show that Catherine Walsh is not a businesswoman. She's a serial killer who used corporate structures to murder people and call it business. Catherine's lawyer, a man named Robert Hutchinson, who charged $3,000 an hour, stood up for the defense. The prosecution wants you to believe my client is a monster, but the truth is far more mundane. Catherine Walsh is a successful CEO who made enemies, competitors who wanted to destroy her company, disgruntled employees who wanted revenge, and one grieving widower who couldn't accept that his wife died in a tragic accident. Thomas Rivera has built an elaborate conspiracy theory based on documents taken out of context recordings that have been manipulated and testimony from criminals trying to reduce their own sentences. Yes, Meridian raised prices on medications. That's called capitalism. That's how pharmaceutical companies fund research and development. It's not murder, it's business. And business isn't a crime. The first witness was Martin Cross. He looked terrible. Prison had aged him. He walked to the stand hunched over, defeated. He was sworn in, and Sarah Kim started questioning. Mr. Cross, what was your role at Meridian Tech? Chief Financial Officer. I reported directly to Catherine Walsh. And what were your responsibilities? Managing the company's finances, overseeing accounting, and... He paused. Handling problems, Catherine's problems. What kind of problems? People who threatened the company, whistleblowers, journalists, regulators. Catherine would tell me someone was becoming a liability, and I would handle it. Handle it how? Martin looked at Catherine. She stared back with hatred in her eyes. I killed them. Made it look like accidents, heart attacks, car crashes, whatever Catherine wanted. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Order, order in the court. Sarah Kim continued. How many people did you kill on Catherine Walsh's orders? 12. That I know of. There might have been others that different contractors handled. Tell us about Rachel Rivera. Martin's voice got quieter. Rachel was a financial analyst. She discovered the price-fixing scheme. found documents showing Meridian was coordinating with competitors to keep insulin prices artificially high. She threatened to report it to the SEC. Catherine called me into her office, said Rachel was a liability that needed permanent resolution. I sabotaged her brake line. 3 days later, Rachel died when her brakes failed on the highway. Thomas gripped Lily's hand. Hearing it described so clinically like Rachel was just another problem to solve made him want to scream. Did Catherine Walsh explicitly order you to kill Rachel Rivera? Yes. She said, "Handle her permanently." That was the phrase she used. We both knew what it meant. Hutchinson jumped up. Objection. The witness is interpreting vague language to support his plea deal. Overruled. The witness can testify to his understanding of the defendant's instructions. Continue, Ms. Kim. Sarah Kim pulled up an email on the courtroom screen. Mr. Cross, is this an email from Catherine Walsh to you dated May 10th, 3 days before Rachel Rivera's death? Yes. Please read the subject line. Rivera problem, urgent. And what does the email say? Martin, Rachel Rivera situation escalating. She's contacted SEC planning to file formal complaint Monday. This cannot proceed. Handle immediately using standard protocol. Confirm when resolved. What did standard protocol mean? It meant murder, made to look like an accident. It was code Catherine and I had developed over the years. And did you confirm when it was resolved? Yes. I sent a reply 3 days later. Rivera liability permanently resolved, no complications. And how did Catherine respond? Martin pulled up another email on the screen. Catherine's reply. Excellent work. Bonus approved. Ensure no loose ends. The jury was staring at Catherine. She sat perfectly still, face blank. But Thomas could see the calculation in her eyes. She was already planning how to spin this. Hutchinson cross-examined Martin for 2 hours. Tried to paint him as a liar, trying to reduce his sentence. Tried to suggest the emails were fabricated. But Martin had too much evidence. Too many specifics. Too many corroborating details. The next witness was Rebecca Chen. She appeared via video link from an undisclosed location. Testified about working as Catherine's executive assistant. About the meetings where Catherine discussed eliminating problems. About the recordings she'd made. Sarah Kim played 3 of the recordings. Catherine's voice crystal clear discussing permanent solutions to liability issues. The jury listened in horror. Hutchinson tried to discredit Rebecca. Called her a disgruntled former employee. But Rebecca had documentation. Had proof she'd worked closely with Catherine for 7 years. Had access to everything. Then came the victims' families. Thomas was one of 12 people who testified about losing someone. About the suspicious circumstances. About being told it was an accident when they knew better. When Thomas took the stand, he told Rachel's story. How she'd found the fraud. How she'd been terrified but determined to do the right thing. How she'd died 3 days before she was supposed to meet with SEC investigators. Did you ever suspect Catherine Walsh was involved in your wife's death? Sarah Kim asked. Yes, from the beginning. Rachel told me she'd found something dangerous. Said people at Meridian were capable of anything. Then she died in a convenient accident, and the investigation was closed in 2 weeks. It was too neat, too clean. What made you finally get proof? I got trapped in an elevator with Catherine for 43 minutes, and she told me everything. Admitted Rachel was a liability. Admitted she'd authorized her elimination. Admitted she'd been watching me for 3 years to make sure I didn't figure it out. I recorded every word. Sarah Kim played the elevator recording. Catherine's voice filled the courtroom. Cold. Clinical. Discussing Rachel's murder like it was a quarterly earnings report. The jury looked horrified. Catherine's face was stone. Hutchinson's cross-examination was brutal. He tried to paint Thomas as obsessed, as mentally unstable, as someone who'd fabricated evidence because he couldn't accept his wife's death. Mr. Rivera, isn't it true you were fired from your job as a financial analyst before your wife's death? I wasn't fired. I resigned. Because you were having performance issues, conflicts with management. Your career was failing. Objection relevance. Sarah Kim stood up. Your Honor, I'm establishing the witness's mental state and credibility. I'll allow it, but get to the point, Mr. Hutchinson. Mr. Rivera, you took a job as a janitor at Meridian headquarters. Why? To find evidence of my wife's murder. Or because you're obsessed with a conspiracy theory and couldn't get a job in your actual field. Objection. Sustained. Mr. Hutchinson, rephrase. But the damage was done. Hutchinson had planted doubt, made Thomas look unstable. Mr. Rivera, you broke into Catherine Walsh's office, stole confidential documents, violated multiple laws. Do you deny that? I recovered evidence of murder. That's not theft. That's justice. That's not for you to decide. You're not a police officer, not a prosecutor. You're a man with a vendetta who committed multiple felonies, and now you're trying to justify them by claiming you were pursuing some greater good. Thomas felt his temper rising. My wife was murdered. The police wouldn't investigate because they were being paid off. The only way to get justice was to find proof myself. So yes, I broke into Catherine's office, and I'd do it again. Even though it makes you a criminal, I'd rather be a criminal who exposed the truth than a law-abiding citizen who let a murderer go free. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Hundreds of documents entered into evidence, dozens of witnesses, expert testimony about the price-fixing scheme, about the murders, about Catherine's corruption of officials. Catherine never testified. Her lawyers advised against it, kept her off the stand where Sarah Kim could destroy her. But Catherine did give one interview to a friendly journalist, claimed she was being persecuted for being a successful woman, claimed the prosecution was politically motivated, claimed she was innocent and the truth would come out. The closing arguments took a full day. Sarah Kim went first. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the evidence. You've heard Martin Cross testify that Catherine Walsh ordered 12 murders. You've heard the recordings of Catherine discussing eliminating problems permanently. You've heard Rebecca Chen describe meetings where Catherine made those decisions. You've heard from the families of 12 victims. You've heard Catherine's own voice on that elevator recording admitting she authorized a permanent solution to the Rachel Rivera problem. The defense wants you to believe this is all a conspiracy, that Martin Cross is lying, that Rebecca Chen is lying, that Thomas Rivera is lying, that somehow 12 families independently fabricated the same story about their loved ones being murdered. That's not reasonable. That's not believable. The simple truth is that Catherine Walsh murdered people to protect her profits. And now she needs to face the consequences. Hutchinson gave his closing. The prosecution has built a house of cards on the testimony of criminals trying to reduce their sentences and a grieving widower who can't accept reality. Yes, Meridian raised prices. Yes, people are upset about healthcare costs. But being a tough businesswoman isn't murder. The prosecution hasn't proven beyond reasonable doubt that Catherine Walsh ordered these deaths. They've proven that she had difficult conversations with employees about handling problems. That's management. That's leadership. It's not murder. Don't convict an innocent woman because you're angry about pharmaceutical prices. Don't let the government criminalize success. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Thomas couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just waited. On day 3, the jury sent a note. They had a verdict. The courtroom filled. Catherine was brought in. Thomas held Lily's hand so tight it probably hurt, but she didn't complain. The jury foreman stood up. In the case of United States versus Catherine Walsh on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Rachel Rivera, how do you find guilty? Thomas felt tears streaming down his face. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, how do you find guilty? One by one, all 12 murder charges. Guilty, guilty, guilty. The fraud charges. Guilty. The bribery charges. Guilty. Every single count. Guilty. Catherine's face didn't change. She sat perfectly still as her entire world collapsed. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. Sarah Kim asked for life without parole. Hutchinson argued for leniency based on Catherine's age, her contributions to medicine, her lack of prior criminal history. The judge was a black woman in her 60s. Judge Anderson. She'd presided over the trial with fairness, but no sympathy for Catherine's wealth or status. Ms. Walsh, I've been a federal judge for 23 years. I've sentenced murderers, terrorists, drug dealers. But I've never seen someone as cold and calculating as you. You didn't kill out of passion or desperation. You killed because people were inconvenient. Because they threatened your profits. You used your wealth and power to corrupt officials, to manipulate the legal system, to murder with impunity for 15 years. You deserve no mercy. You deserve no leniency. On each count of conspiracy to commit murder, I sentence you to life in prison without possibility of parole, sentences to run consecutively. On the fraud charges, 40 years. On the bribery charges, 20 years. You will spend the rest of your life in federal prison. You will never be free. And perhaps in that cell, you'll finally understand that some things matter more than money. Like human life, like justice, like truth. Catherine was led away in handcuffs. She looked at Thomas one last time. Not with hatred, with something else. Resignation, acceptance that she'd finally lost. Thomas walked out of the courthouse into a crowd of reporters. He made a statement. 3 years ago, my wife Rachel was murdered for trying to do the right thing. For trying to expose corporate fraud that was killing people. Today, the person who ordered her death was sentenced to life in prison. This isn't just about Rachel. It's about the 12 other people Catherine killed. It's about the thousands of people who died because they couldn't afford medications Meridian price fixed. It's about holding powerful people accountable. About proving that wealth doesn't put you above the law. Rachel believed in truth, in justice, in fighting for what's right even when it's dangerous. And today, her belief was vindicated. Today, we proved that one person refusing to stay silent can change everything. Lily stood next to him. My mom was a hero, and my dad finished what she started. That's what we do in our family. We fight for what's right. We don't give up. We don't let powerful people win just because they think they're untouchable. 6 months after Catherine's sentencing, Congress passed the Rachel Rivera Affordable Medicine Act. It capped insulin prices at $35 a month. Created new oversight for pharmaceutical pricing. Strengthened whistleblower protections. Made it harder for companies like Meridian to price fix. Thomas was invited to the signing ceremony. Stood next to Senator Morrison as the president signed the bill into law. This legislation will save lives, the president said. It will ensure that what happened to Rachel Rivera, what happened to thousands of Americans who couldn't afford their medications, never happens again. This is Rachel's legacy. And we owe her family a debt of gratitude for fighting to make sure her death meant something. Thomas met with the other victims' families. They formed a foundation, Justice for Pharmaceutical Victims. Started helping other families investigate suspicious deaths. Started pushing for more accountability. Started building a movement. Martin Cross was sentenced to 20 years as agreed. Would be eligible for parole in 15. Some of the victims' families were angry Thomas had supported the deal. But Thomas didn't regret it. Martin's testimony had guaranteed Catherine's conviction. That was worth it. Julia won a Pulitzer for her reporting. Wrote a book, The Elevator Confession, How a Janitor Took Down a Billionaire Killer. Used the advance to start a nonprofit, helping investigative journalists pursue corporate crime stories. Rebecca Chen testified at 3 more trials, other Meridian executives who'd been involved in the fraud. All convicted. All sentenced to prison. She lived quietly in witness protection with her family. Sent Thomas a letter once thanking him for giving her the courage to come forward. 2 years after Catherine's sentencing, Thomas got a call from the prison. Catherine wanted to see him. He almost said no. Almost told them to go to hell. But something made him agree. He drove to the federal prison in West Virginia, where Catherine was serving her sentence. Sat across from her in a visiting room. She looked older, smaller. Prison had broken something in her that courtrooms hadn't. "Why did you want to see me?" Thomas asked. "To apologize. I know it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't change anything. But I needed to say it. I'm sorry. For Rachel. For what I did to your family. For everything." "Are you really sorry? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" Catherine thought about that. "Both. I'm sorry I'm spending the rest of my life in here. But I'm also sorry for what I did. I told myself it was business. That profits mattered more than people. That I was doing more good than harm. But I was wrong. I destroyed families. Killed people who were just trying to do the right thing. And for what? Money I can't spend. A company I don't control anymore. It was all meaningless. And I threw away everything that actually mattered." "Like what?" "Like being able to sleep at night. Like having peace. Like being able to look at myself in the mirror without seeing a monster." "You won, Thomas. Not because you put me in prison, because you stayed human. You stayed decent. You didn't become like me to beat me. And that's why you won." Thomas stood up to leave. "I didn't win, Catherine. Rachel's still dead. 12 people are still dead. Thousands of people died because they couldn't afford medications you price-fixed. There's no winning here. There's just making sure you couldn't hurt anyone else. That's all I wanted. That's all this was ever about. I know. And I hope, wherever Rachel is, she knows you finished what she started. She'd be proud of you." Thomas walked out without responding. He'd said what he needed to say. Catherine could rot in that cell thinking about her choices. 5 years after Rachel's death, Thomas took Lily to visit her grave. Lily was 15 now. Smart, strong. Nothing like the terrified 10-year-old she'd been when this started. "Hi, Mom," Lily said. She put flowers on the headstone. "Dad and I came to tell you about the foundation. We've helped 23 families get justice for their loved ones who were killed by pharmaceutical companies. Dad's testimony helped convict 6 more executives. The Rachel Rivera Act has saved an estimated 50,000 lives by making insulin affordable. And I'm going to medical school next year. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to help people. Just like you wanted to help people." Thomas knelt by Rachel's grave. "We did it, Rachel. We exposed Catherine. We changed the system. We made sure your death meant something. And Lily's going to carry on your legacy. She's going to be the kind of doctor who fights for what's right. Who doesn't care about profits more than people. Who remembers that medicine is about saving lives, not making money." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lily spoke. "Dad, do you think it was worth it? Everything we went through. The fear, the threats. Almost losing everything." Thomas thought about that, about Rachel, about the elevator conversation that changed everything, about the choice to fight instead of hiding. Yeah, it was worth it. Because we didn't let them win. We didn't let Catherine kill your mom and get away with it. We held her accountable. We changed laws. We saved lives. That's worth any amount of suffering. That's what your mom taught me. That fighting for what's right is always worth it, even when it costs you everything." Lily hugged her father. "Good. Because when I'm a doctor, when I see corruption or fraud, or people dying because someone values money over lives, I'm going to fight too. Just like Mom. Just like you. That's the Rivera legacy. We don't stay silent. We don't let evil people win just because they're powerful. We fight." Thomas held his daughter and looked at Rachel's grave and thought about a broken elevator on a Tuesday night 5 years ago. About 43 minutes that exposed a billionaire's crimes. About a recording that changed everything. People asked him sometimes if he regretted it. If he wished he'd just taken the settlement and walked away. If he thought the price he paid was too high. He never regretted it. Not once. Because Catherine Walsh had spent 30 years murdering people and calling it business. And Thomas Rivera, a janitor with a flip phone and a dead wife and a daughter who needed him to be brave, had stopped her. Not with money or power or connections. With truth. With evidence. With the simple refusal to let evil win just because it wore an expensive suit. That was the lesson Thomas taught Lily. That was Rachel's legacy. That was what changed when an elevator broke down and trapped a janitor with a CEO who thought she was untouchable. Ordinary people have more power than they know. They just have to be brave enough to use it. Thomas Rivera was that person. And because of him, Catherine Walsh would die in prison. 12 victims had justice. Thousands of people could afford their medications. And one 10-year-old girl grew up knowing that her mother's death hadn't been meaningless. It had been the spark that started a fire. A fire that burned down a corrupt empire and proved that truth always wins in the end, even when it takes everything you have to tell it.